Welcome back, everyone. You are tuning into another weekly episode of the Rated RX podcast. I'm Robbie Abasi here with Sam Llona and Xavier Hill. Guys, I didn't goof up your names this week, so props to me.
Hey,
how are you?
Good work.
Thank you. I've been rehearsing in my head all day. How you guys been this week? What's going on? What's good?
Been pretty good. Interesting thing at work that happened for compounding. The FDA came out with a green list for GLP-1s. They've done it before, but essentially they're trying to target production of the powder of different GLP-1s and making sure that they are of a certain quality or going through FDA-inspected facilities. So all of ours happened to be that, but they were contacting us and being like, we got to submit this paperwork and do this stuff to get like approved on this list. So there's still some red tape involved with it. And hopefully that's it. And it's not something like they're just holding up everything to shut down compounding GLP-1s. But hopefully it is the goal that they're trying to do here of cutting out or reducing risk to patients on powders, APIs, that aren't being inspected by the FDA or aren't to certain quality standards. So hopefully it's a good thing and we're getting a good quality product out there for people.
Yeah, it sounds like a good thing. The green list, is this just for the products or is this products and compounders?
This is for the pure powder. So
Okay.
It's just the powder, API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, that is coming in that any of those things go through facilities that most of them are the premium ones are inspected by the FDA, making sure that they're meeting all the requirements and regulations for that. So putting them on this list shows that they are part of that. And so if you're getting something that isn't there or part of it, knowing that potentially you're getting a subpar product. So a little harder for the end user to know that exactly on what they're doing, what they're getting, but still potentially a good step on trying to make sure that people are getting what they're wanting to get.
Definitely.
Getting those quality ingredients.
Yeah. I imagine it's going to make things more expensive, but probably a necessary cost to be on the good list.
Potentially.
And how about you, Zay? What's good in the world of pharmacy for you?
Same old, same old. It's been a busy week. Had a couple students. I float through different teams, and each team has a student, so I'm precepting a different student every day. But luckily, I have my nice little PowerPoint about acute care that I go through with the students that I adopted from Dr. Ryan Dole. Shout out to him. But I just kind of teach them a more well-rounded way to look up the patients and the way they need to be thinking about things to completely do evidence-based assessment and plan. And I've got some good feedback from the students. So yeah, pretty much it. Been teaching.
Nice, man. Good
Nice
for
work.
you. Who's your favorite student this year so far?
There's no favorites. They're all great.
That's what you're supposed to say, but we know the truth. We all have our favorites.
Everyone's got a favorite.
And the one we're excited to be done with for the rotation. You're like, oh, do I pass this kid or not? But no, I know our students try hard. But we have to be good preceptors too.
Yeah.
And respect the career of pharmacy.
Oh yeah. But a couple weeks back though, I did go to an art exhibit, and it was about food, and it looked pretty cool. So I have a little image I want to show you guys. I'll describe it to the listeners here. But if you guys can see on the screen, there are pictures of looks like drug labels, but it has different food names. But when I was inspecting it, I noticed the drugs had nothing to do with the actual food. They just saw, cool drug labels, and they kept it kind of the same, but they put the drug name on there. But basically what they were getting at was that food is overly processed, kind of like a medication. And they were drawing that parallel with their artwork. But it looks pretty cool. These are really nice, box labels, I would say. With different food names they just threw on there. They did leave the drug name from the box that they copied. But this is really cool artwork, in my opinion. So I found that fascinating. And since I'm a pharmacist, I was like, oh, I can talk about this on the podcast. So what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, it's a cool little touch with that. And being almost like they're just popping pills like food sort of thing. I think what you were saying there on that. It makes, trying to get artistic with it on meds and food and try to combine that. I see the draw there.
Yeah, interesting because some of this food leads to needing meds. So it's kind of interesting to think about how the food you eat can make you unhealthy. Thus, you take these meds to make you healthy, or at least to a degree, right? So
Right.
it's interesting. Very, very interesting to think about. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, definitely pushing, more natural foods for sure. Self-grown in your garden and hopefully less processed things for sure. All right, I'll hand it back off to Robbie to pass it along.
All right. Well, I got nothing to share. I had a pretty boring week. Thankfully, I like boring. It's very predictable and I don't lose sleep. So, on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Sam for our weekly weigh in.
Thank you, Robbie. And you are listening to the Rated RX podcast. I'm Sam here with Xavier and Robbie, and we have the weekly weigh-in. I have a listener asking here, what are some of the most challenging or ethically complex situations you've encountered as a pharmacist, and how do you navigate those situations? Xavier, anything that comes to mind for that?
A lot of things at the VA for me that ends up being a challenging for like just us, the doctors and the whole team as well. It's just the social issues. Like here in California, we have a lot of homeless patients. That's always difficult to deal with. Like, sometimes it's time for them to discharge. They're feeling better, but they have nowhere to go or they can't take care of themselves, but they don't meet criteria to go to the nursing home or they don't have enough money to buy assisted living spot. So sometimes we discharge people to the streets, which can seem ethically inappropriate. But if they have nowhere else to go and they're physically healthy and we need room to take care of more sick people, it's kind of like balancing those skills. So I know that can be the social aspects of things can definitely be very challenging, especially financial issues as well. Those come up a lot. Other than that, I've also seen some like off-label uses of drugs. Those things can be ethically challenging, but like the doctors, they're in charge for a reason. They can practice medicine. We'll just make sure it's safe. So if they come up with some weird theory of using a drug a different type of way, we will try to fact check and see if we can find some evidence or publications on using it in that off-label way. If we can find some evidence or if it makes sense clinically for this patient, and after risk benefit evaluation with the patient and a discussion between the provider and the patient, then it's okay to do some of these off-label things. But those are some things that can be very challenging or ethically complex as a pharmacist.
Some good points there. I like it. Definitely some challenges that you gotta deal with in the VA. Robbie, anything come to mind for you?
Oh my goodness. Don't even get me started. Okay. So, in a psychiatric setting, we offer meds to patients. We can't make anyone take meds they don't want to. However, there comes a point where if the risk of not taking their medications is far worse than taking it, obviously, then the doctors will go to court and get a court order, get like a Reese or some sort of conservatorship, and basically make it so they can't refuse taking their meds. And the ethical dilemma is like, in a sense, like, are you taking away their rights to say no to taking these meds versus are these meds like, are they doing a bigger, greater thing by having them take these meds, right? So it just the ethical dilemma is, are we taking away their rights? And the way I rationalize it is whenever I kind of have a problem, like, is it okay that we're basically forcing them to take these meds, giving them shots to say no? It's you read their history and you find out maybe they killed someone, maybe they were act of violence because they weren't in the right headspace to just navigate through life. And so obviously these medications help clear their mind, help organize their thoughts. So I mean that's the ethical dilemma that right there. It's like you're essentially taking away this right to say no to these medications, but you're getting the benefit of this person isn't going to hurt someone though, or the likelihood drastically goes down. So very interesting in a psychiatric setting.
I bet it can be some tough tough decisions and obviously legal issues that come into there. For me, I think what dealing with recently and doing injectable meds is beyond use dating for vials and meds, redosing on single-use vials and things like that, where people are always asking, how long is this good for? How many times can I dose this? And trying to have that line of, yeah, like this is the official rule. You're probably fine, but we don't have any data to tell you this is good. You shouldn't be doing this way. But you're probably not going to die from injecting again on something, but you shouldn't be doing this, and trying to understand that people are going to do it regardless, and trying to tell them the best way to do it, but also be like, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not a good idea. But just understanding and trying to go between those two lines on what they're going to be doing. So we were talking, Robbie brought up about kind of this ethical conflict that we're having sometimes. How do you guys say you kind of balance that obviously professional side that we're supposed to be having versus that personal ethics that you have or personal feelings about filling a medication? Have we had that dilemma? Not too much of a concern? Have we turned people away from meds? Xavier, any thoughts on that?
I haven't had anything too crazy on my own. I think the only thing that I really had was like when I first started. There was a patient with a possible. Well, they had a blood clot, and they thought it like spread to the brain and caused like a stroke. So they had like an embolic shower, basically. But it was no proof that the patient had like AFib. Neurology was recommending starting a DOAC because they were thinking it was possibly caused by. They were thinking that maybe that was the reason that the stroke had happened, right? So they were thinking it was cardioembolic and maybe AFib related. So they were starting it, but there was no proof that the patient had like AFib at the time. So it's kind of like a gray area. Like these experts were saying, hey, he has high stroke risk. He's throwing embolic showers to his brain, so he has a clot somewhere. But he needs this DOAC, but it wasn't as clearly indicated that a DOAC should be used. So in that area, I learned that, I talked to the chief of anticoag, the pharmacy head of anticoag, and she was saying how, neurologists or the specialists, they feel like this is the reason that this patient is having it. We're going to agree with the specialist, which I was like, okay, that's fine. But as long as the doctors have a risk benefit discussion with the patient, they say, hey, we're using this, it's a little bit off label, it's a little bit gray area. This is what we're thinking. And the patient agrees with that, with that risk of being on that medication, hopefully, help with the situation. It's all fine. So the key thing for us is to make sure, we just make sure the patient's okay with it. Like it was a little bit, different or, more than what you would do if the patient understands the risk of it and agrees that it's more benefit than risk, then, it's fine to kind of go with it, go with the experts. They went to school just as long as us and then additional training for longer than us. So, got to go with the experts there.
Trust your experts. I like it. Robbie, combination of that.
Yeah, I think two things come to mind. It's like two big topics. First one, when I see someone on a conservatorship over at work and they can't refuse meds, I try to, put on my pharmacist cap and review their meds and try to make sure they're not on too much therapy, because at a certain point, if you can't say no to things, how do you start advocating for yourself, right? So I try to put on my pharmacist cap, make sure they're not on, more than two psych meds. Of course, there's always things like valproic acid, things like that. That's not really considered a psych med, but we just want to reduce the pill burden. So I try to take a little extra time when I'm verifying meds, and especially when I see them on a REIS, and make sure they have the backup PRNs. But a more global ethical thing, and I think that this is something that every pharmacist grapples with, is opioids, right? So, we have people who have chronic pain and, they need this medication to function and just get by in their daily life, right? But we're told by the FDA, CDC guidelines, we have to be very careful with how we dispense these opioids, right? Then you hear about these lawsuits with Walgreens, CVS, about how they over dispensed it, doctors being held accountable for overly prescribing it. And that draws the ethical dilemma of, okay, well, where do I lean in this, right? So I want you to have your meds, but at the same time, I have to follow these FDA guidelines. When I was working community, and I know this is something a lot of pharmacists do, they try to delay pickup dates, not make it so they run out, but ensure that the patient picks it up within a window, right? Like your 2 day, you'll run out of your medications within 2 days. This is your window to pick it up. And obviously things happen. If when someone told me they were going on vacation, they were going to miss the windows, I always let early fill slide by if they had the right excuse. But, chronic pain is a big thing. I mean, you guys know this, like I said that joke on a earlier episode, people flipped out, but it's just like, so it's obviously a big thing and something pharmacists have to grapple with. And, we have to do our due diligence because it's our job and we have to protect our license, protect ourselves, but at the same time, protect the patient. So it is walking a fine line, unfortunately.
Definitely, I can see that. But yeah, we've all dealt with opioids, at least on that side. Probably less so of psych across what you're handling, but every aspect has some sort of pain med involved. So definitely something that I'm sure that we've both experienced, Xavier and I. For me, the first thing that popped into head was remembering one of our professors who was telling us that they worked retail around campus and obviously did teaching and stuff with us as well. But their one kind of stipulation they had was they wouldn't dispense birth control. And it wasn't that they didn't want it at their pharmacy or someone else couldn't do it there. It was just they wouldn't be the personal one to dispense it to that patient. And so, that I remember was like the first time of it being something kind of an ethical thing, really, that I heard that was, I guess, maybe a little more unique, maybe not. How popular that is for different pharmacists to refuse that. But then in my setting, what it made me think of was a death with dignity. So assisted suicide medication and essentially our in-house policy of employees, if it's ethically a concern or they don't want to be a part of it, there's no issues with that. You don't have to counsel, you don't have to fill, you don't have to talk to, people involved with that. You just can pass it on. And so I remember like my first time I did it as a tech being kind of like hesitant of like, this is weird. Like, what am I like? I'm really making something that someone's going to take and end their life. But it's, relatively open to people if they want to, be a part of it or not. They can do that. I would say most people are comfortable with, doing the med, filling the med, counseling the med for patients. But that is definitely a ethical conflict that comes up for people on that kind of medication, assisted suicide with physicians for different people. So as talking about me being first grad and having that versus now, do we see ourselves kind of different approaches since early grad, since those students that Xavier's seeing and now on how we're handling these situations?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I've definitely grown tremendously as a pharmacist. I'm definitely way more independent and comfortable in challenging situations. For example, during the LA fires, I was working a night shift, just me and the ER pharmacist, only two pharmacists for the whole hospital, and they decided to evacuate the nursing home patients from the LA VA and transfer them down to the Long Beach VA. So I had to, I was one of the two pharmacists there, so I had to figure out what all the meds they needed, contact the supervisors, let them know what was going on, be there for the response team with the doctors. So the physicians and nurses had created like a full, emergency team to kind of work on everything. But we successfully got the patients over there. Some of the medications they use at West LA VA, we don't always use. So we had to acquire some medications to make sure they continue their medications. So it was a big thing. And basically, most of my night shift, I was just working nonstop trying to make sure they transferred over. And they came, bus loads at a time. So it'll be a couple of them come off the bus.
Dang.
Their doctors they had, 5, 6 hospitalists ordering medications. And there's like two pharmacists there waiting for backup. We're just verifying away, and these are nursing home patients. So it's 20, 30 plus orders per patient. But yeah, I mean, I've grown enough and gained enough experience to where, when there is a challenging situation such as an emergency like that, I'm able to stay cool, calm, and handle the situation.
Cool kid.
Cool, Zay.
Robbie, any changes, growth for you over the years?
I think when I was a newer pharmacist, I definitely did a lot more things by the book. It's like, oh, it has to be done this way because this is how it says, this is how it's supposed to be done. But now that I've worked a little more, it's not that I'm more lenient of things, but I try to practice a lot more professional judgment and clinical reasoning. It's like, oh, like, going back to the opioid thing, it's like, oh, I'm going to give them it even earlier than anticipated because, this weird thing happened to them. Um, you know, uh, just because, grown a little bit now, I'm not so afraid and scared like, oh my God, opioids, right? But that being said, like, rarely ever dispense opioids in my new practice. So maybe I'm just not so afraid because I'm not as exposed to it and touching it, I guess. But yeah, definitely not as uptight, definitely not as by the book. So grown a lot to just trust myself, trust my own reasoning and clinical judgment.
Not a kid. I would agree with the by the book a bit of being a lot more like specific things of being exact versus it's like this is still completely fine within this range or something like that. I would say what came to mind for me was more like emotional intelligence or empathy with patients or coworkers of being able to it being less of just like it probably has to do with being comfortable, but like focused on this drug and like this is what I'm trying to like think of and remember of it's like, yeah, I can do that, but I can also like talk to you and we can talk through things. So probably helped partly of being more comfortable just in the with meds and pharmacy and everything like that. Probably the fiance helped with that as well with
Oh yeah,
emotional intelligence there. I'm sure Xavier can agree with that for sure.
shout out to the wife.
And
Catherine's got a big project ahead of her, right?
She's been working on this for years.
work in progress. But knowing just that level of communication to patients and coworkers, for that matter, to make that just a little more comfortable, and still obviously having that med side of everything, but that less more relaxed on the med side, or understanding that more confidently, where that's not just the only thing you're focused on. And then I guess lastly, we talked about the students. Any recommendations as they go through that transition as they come out new grads? Maybe people are, September here, passing their exams after studying all summer, starting their first jobs here. Any recommendations for them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say, when you first get a new job, the learning curve can be pretty steep initially. So one thing I would recommend is don't be afraid to put in a little extra work outside of work initially, just until you get caught up and up to speed and up to date on your policies at your hospital and a little bit more comfortable with your clinical areas that you may be working in. Definitely do a little bit extra outside of work initially, but after you get caught up, once you clock out, don't do anything. But and then lastly, one thing that always works for me is always listen to the little noise in the back of your head when something's off. 'Cause for some reason your brain can sense things like when you learned all this information, you see stuff. There's a little signal that pops up in the back of your head to tell you like, hey, you might want to check that again. If you ever get that feeling in the back of your head, always double, triple, quadruple check, running by someone else at the pharmacy because it's telling you something. That's your instincts. It's telling you something. So always listen to the instinct in the back of your head.
I like it. Good tips. Robbie, any last tips for the new grads?
Yeah, I would say if you have a mentor, reach out to your mentor to get help and assistance. It's can be overwhelming after you graduate and you realize, oh my God, no one's checking my work anymore. And that can be a little daunting. That imposter syndrome is very real. I think we all experience that, and it's pretty alarming at first, realizing, holy shit, no one's no one's got my back anymore. This is all me. So, just important that you have a mentor to, just bounce off how things are going in your head and how work is going. There'll be times where you might be pressured at work to do things that might make you feel uncomfortable, and if you truly feel uncomfortable, know that you could always say no. I think that new grads get pressured into taking crappy stores because they're so worried about having a job and thinking that's the only opportunity they're going to get. I would say that take your time getting the right job. It's not going to be the job, your dream job. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky, but don't settle for anything, especially if it's going to make you unhappy and make you feel uncomfortable and potentially jeopardize your license. So take your time finding a job. I know that money is very important because you got to pay off those student loans. If you're the average pharmacy student, anyways. So some people are lucky, but I was not one of them. But don't feel like you have to say yes because of the stressors. Take your time picking the right job. It's a long lifetime of working, trust me.
All right, some great advice. Hopefully it helps for someone. We'll go ahead and switch it over here to Xavier for a little pharmacy fantasy.
All right. You guys are listening to the Rated RX podcast. I'm Xavier. I'm here with Sam Llona and Robbie Abasi. And now we're going to do the pharmacy fantasy section of our podcast. And today I got a pretty fun segment for you guys. This segment is called the Smart Pill Organizer. So here's the scene, the scenario that I'm going to talk about. Patient walks in holding one of those new Smart Pill Organizers. You know, the kind that like beeps and flashes and send texts to their spouse if they forget a dose. Really fancy, very high tech, hard to use. The patient walks up to you, they're a little worried, and they say, I think this thing is broken. Or maybe I am broken. So we take a look and see the problem. The pills are all in the wrong slot. The app is going off like a disco light. They basically create a time-traveling pill mess because pills are in the wrong day slots. We go through it together, and I show them a few simple tricks and tips to keep it organized and to avoid mistakes. But by the end, they're laughing, and they're like, this organizer is finally behaving and working for me like it should. But moments like this remind us that technology is supposed to make life easier, but sometimes it just creates chaos. And as pharmacists, part of our job now is also being tech troubleshooters too. So my question to you guys, do you think these devices actually help patients, or do they create more work for us pharmacists?
And I would say probably both. I mean, obviously, when they're working, they're helping. That's the whole point. And got to a point of people purchasing different things at working for them at some point. Obviously, in this scenario, a person liked it, wanted it, was working for them, and then things started going off. I think it's a little different with AI things now, but it's always kind of been, the technology is only as good as the person, or either the person that's programming it, built it, setting it up. It's relatively dumb. It's just doing kind of what you're saying. And so if you don't keep loading your pills, if you don't reset your timers or whatever time loops this thing can do, it's going to start buzzing and beeping, and it's just going to be a nuisance and annoyance for you. So yeah, there's that balance. Same with, we bring it up in AI. If you're using this as a tool, or you're letting it just to take over what you're doing, the person just starts popping whatever pill it says, not even thinking about it. And it ends up, it's off by a couple days and they're not following their measurement. You still got to have some accountability for any of these technologies and tools, even for meds.
Yeah, I agree. They can be difficult to work with sometimes, especially if you're, not used to using it or having difficulty, using the products. Robbie, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it does more good than bad. And I think it largely depends on the patient's level of technology competence. I only have so much competence when it comes to technology. I mean, I could turn on a laptop, I could use Chat GPT, fill a prescription, do my work tasks, use Excel very basically, but I can't program. I can't do any of this fancy stuff, link, like things to my phone from Bluetooth, whatever. I mean, I could link Bluetooth, but the fancy stuff to make yourself have a smart home, I can't do any of that. And I think that echoes for our aging population too. I also think that we live in a world where we want the fanciest thing possible. You're like, oh, but I can get the one with the bells and whistles. Oh, I can get the iPhone Max 15, whatever Pro. because it's the
17.
best
17
one.
now.
We're at 17 now. Jesus, I just
Yes.
got the 16 like 2 months ago. Wow.
Me too.
Son of a gun.
We're boomers.
But this is my point. It's just like, damn it, there's a new thing that's already out. But it's just like, I don't even know if I'm using my phone to its full capacity, you know? And I think that it's the same thing when it comes to the aging population. You think, oh, my health is very important. I want the best thing. I'm going to get the fanciest pill machine, even though you might not need everything that's included in it. You know, there's nothing like the good old fashioned plastic click up and down. You got your AM, PM done on it. That's what I have. Nothing fancy, but I think it does largely depend on the person and what their level of comfort is with using technology.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely agree. You brought up a good point saying you have an aging population, right? And then technology is becoming so advanced. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all blends together. Maybe like, our current Gen Zers, when they get old, they probably still be really good at technology versus, us millennials who we got half technology, half old school. So some of the new things that come out, we might still have a hard time, dealing with those things and using those products as we get older. But maybe the Gen Zers, since they, been iPad kids since they were born, maybe they'll be able to pick up, a lot of the new tech things a little bit easier.
Not only that, but think about how they get information. They get it off of short little TikTok videos, nothing too long. My wife was doing a CE and it was talking about how to properly give it like information to Gen Zers. And it explicitly said, try to connect using very short videos, aka TikToks. And I'm just like, wow, it's finally reached this level of CEs and how to communicate with the newer generation of clinicians. So it's just really, really interesting. So we are seeing a change and evolve. And they're getting better and better with technology every year. I'm a little scared to see what my son gets his hands on when he's ready to pick up a screen, I guess.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the world continues to evolve. Technology is evolving, and we'll see what that means for us millennials and pharmacists and patients alike. So, but now we'll hand it back off to Sam, and then we'll do the Plan B blind draft.
Thank you, Zay. You are listening to the Rated RX podcast. I'm Sam here with Xavier and Robbie, and we have the Plan B blind draft. This week, we are doing the most suspect supplement claims. So we're having claims on the side of this bottle. Number 1, most suspect, craziest. Number 5, it's like, okay, yeah, I could see that. On the supplements. All right, you guys ready? 1 through 5.
They're all going to be 1.
First one here, side of your supplement bottle, you got through the mail, clinically proven to give you your biceps so vascular they'll get flagged by TSA. So vascular biceps through this
permit
supplement.
for those guns, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I've seen like not to that extent, but I've seen stuff similar wording. Not directly the biceps, but you walk into a vitamin store, you'll see, man. They make all these crazy claims. I want to believe it, I really do, but I know it's a bunch of bullshit.
Well, have you tried it?
Yeah.
No.
It's
What? You
funny.
didn't even tell me what the supplement's called.
That's not important.
I think it's funny because patients don't really know that supplements have to write things a certain way on their bottle, right? They have to say they can claim to do certain things. They can't actually say that they do certain things because they're not FDA approved and reviewed. So just, heads up to the patients out there. It's like supplements only can claim that they may be able to help with certain things.
So what do you think then with this claiming? They think like a 2?
Vascular muscles, that's
Sounds pretty steroidy to me.
yeah. Well, might be some roids in there for sure. Maybe creatine,
I don't even think creatine makes that claim, but
Let's give it a 4. I don't think it's.
oh, you think 4? Okay,
I
you don't think it's very high.
I feel like we'll get some more ridiculous claims for sure.
All right, let's do it. That's
Claiming,
fine.
it might be possible to vascularize those muscles.
All right, you guys are locking in 4. Next one. Supplement claim promotes colon health by scaring the crap out of you, literally.
I like that.
That was nice.
I'm gonna give that a 5. I would endorse that.
Yeah.
I agree. Let's take it.
You like that one? Put your face next to that one, holding the bottle. You're good with that?
Hey. The supplement in one hand, my kombucha in the other.
That's right. Dude, flowing well. All right, so you lock in 5. So the next one doubles your energy, triples your bad decisions.
Ooh. That sounds like tequila.
Oh yeah, you guys don't want to see Robbie on tequila. That guy's an animal. Good thing he's a dad now. Way less tequila.
Yeah. What do you think,
So you guys
man?
have 1, 2, and 3 left.
1, 2, and 3. I mean, that's not unrealistic.
It's true, but it's bad.
It's bad, but I mean, like, it's the claim we're judging, not the effects of the claim. You know, like how outlandish is this claim? And I think that's pretty real. That's what alcohol does. I mean, you're basically trying to sell me some alcohol right now.
That's all it is. Let's do the 3 then. You know,
Let's go 3. Yeah. All right.
Or it is. All right, next one makes you immune to STDs, but only on leap years.
Oh yeah, that's 1 for sure.
Yeah, definitely 1.
That's a 1 for sure.
Locking it up. Not even doubting.
Not even doubting, Sam.
Yeah,
what's our number 2?
Everybody. We're gonna be doing a lot of doxycycline, ceftriaxone shots.
Maybe it's just doxy.
Slam.
Maybe that's all it is. It's just prescriptive doxy. All right, so then you guys locked in 1 until your number 2 would be back to tequila. Detoxifies the liver as long as you only drink tequila.
Oh, whoa. What are the odds of that? I need to go buy a lottery ticket, man. Jeez.
So you guys had number 1 makes you immune to STDs, but only on leap years. 2 detoxifies the liver as long as you're only drinking tequila. 3 doubles your energy, triples your bad decisions. 4 clinically proven to give you biceps so vascular they'll get flagged by the TSA. And 5 promotes colon health by scaring the crap out of you, literally.
Love it.
I
How
like
do
that.
you guys feel? How do you guys feel you did?
I mean, not bad. You know, some
I'll
of
take it.
I think we got the ones. Maybe switch 3 and 4, but not too bad.
Yeah. What would you change, Sam?
I mean, the best one is probably the colon health. But you know,
Yeah.
is that because because it's just like I would buy that versus. Come on now, you can't put that on a bottle. All right, well, good work, boys. Let me pass this off here to Robbie, who's got a little video segment for us.
Thank you very much. You are listening to the Rated RX podcast. I'm Robbie Abasi here with Sam Llona and Xavier Hill. We are going to bump into our next segment for adverse reactions. I'm going to play a video. You guys are going to react.
Adderall for the first time with no health insurance. Let's go see how much it costs. Kylen, Kylen, July. Yeah, it changed. Yeah. Either I just have no concept of money or everyone's being fucking dramatic. Literally, for my antidepressant and 2 different types of Adderall, it was only $120. I thought it was going to be $3,000. It's literally not bad. The fuck do I need health insurance for?
Whoa, well, isn't that something?
Good to go.
Good to go. She's a happy camper about that.
She's a
So-
rich girl.
Antidepressants are working, I guess.
I guess so. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So what are you guys' uncandid reactions as you're watching this video?
Oh man, I mean, she's saying people are dramatic, but she has a different financial situation than a lot of people do in America. Like 120 doesn't sound like a lot to her, but I have a patient. His prescriptions are $8 per prescription, right? And he's like, I can't afford that. After I pay my rent in California, I have only this much left afterwards, and he got to make his money stretch for food and all that other stuff. So $8 per prescription can add up and it'll be a lot. So, 120 is definitely a lot for some people. And she should be happy that she's doing well.
Yeah.
Is that a 1 month supply or 3 month supply as well?
I did not say. I guess I assumed it was just a 1 month supply.
I'd assume so too, but
especially for the Adderall.
Adderall, yeah.
But yeah, that does seem like a lot. But again, as you said, it's different for everyone. I know for some short period, I was on like a high deductible health plan. So you can, I'm sure maybe Xavier knows in and outs about the finances, but essentially it's all tax-free money that you can put in and pull out related to healthcare stuff. So you can use it as like a retirement plan if you don't pull from it. But really it's designed to use for health costs. So you can put it in almost like a 401k, but then you can pull it for medication purchases or anything related to health. But I was just using it to use as essentially like a Roth IRA for it. But then that means everything is pretty much out of pocket. So like there was a few times if I did need to get something or went to an urgent care or something, like it was in the hundred something or whatever for a visit or a script for that. So yeah, it was more expensive, but the like your insurance payoff or balance of you're putting in is way less. So obviously it's, something for everyone. No people, depends what you want and don't want, but maybe she was on that same thing and it balances out by how much you're putting into with your company to pay for your health insurance. But I would say in general, that does seem like a decent chunk of money that you got to pay to get those scripts. But as you guys said, it's everyone's different. We talk about what I do in injectables, GLP-1s, like that's a drop in the bucket compared to what everyone else is dropping for that thing. So, maybe that's the new norm. 120, no big deal.
I mean, with inflation, $100 does feel like $10 for sure. But I mean, if anything was $100, I'll still be like, dang. I mean, we make decent money, but $100 still seems like a lot to me. So, but I guess it's for your health and you need it for your health as well. So
yeah, 100%. It is it's old. What's the old saying? The ignorance is bliss, right? So, as someone who has health insurance, whenever I have to pay more than like $25 for my prescriptions, I'm just like, what the hell? Like what am I buying here? Am I getting a 3 month supply at least? So I just feel kind of bad for this girl because she thinks this is what it's supposed to be. Like this is normal. And then she thought of she said $30,000 for some drugs. It's just like that's also insane and absurd to me. But why do you guys think she thought it would cost a lot more?
I mean, you see a lot of TikToks and stuff out there about people complaining about the cost of their medications. So, but a lot of times those patients are on like the new monoclonal antibodies or chemotherapy medications, and those do cost a lot more. And if their insurance, they lose their insurance and they got to figure out how to pay for it because it's life saving for them. That's what gets talked about on social media. So she probably, saw some of those TikToks and was like, oh man, I thought my meds gonna be 30,000. Her meds are, generally older, generic now, so probably way more affordable. But she had a different tier of medication. She will definitely be paying a lot more money for sure.
Yeah,
or maybe even
definitely.
some of those in brand, is what you're saying. Like if they had same thing but in brand name, probably just even recently, probably pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, I was reading the comments and people mentioned like, hey, what about GoodRx? And when I work community, we did not accept GoodRx specifically for controlled medicine, so that really wouldn't help her much for her Adderall. And I have no idea what the cost of Adderall is these days, but I surely can't be more than like $100 for a single bottle. There's no way. And the fact that they charged 120, and granted, it was 2 prescriptions total, and it sounded like they had to break it up her 2 brands just to give her the full amount, but there's no way those medications cost like $60. Let's just split the difference and say $60 for 2 prescriptions. I mean, maybe someone can write into the show and tell us what the cost of 100 pills of Adderall goes for, but I'm very skeptical. And I'm kind of upset with the pharmacy for not trying to use GoodRx for her, and maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they did.
Yeah.
It did look like she was either at a Costco or a Sam's Club. I could tell by that roof and that ceiling and those pings in the background. I'm like, that's Costco or Sam's Club, one of the two. And their prices are already pretty good. At least I think they are. I mean, I don't go to Costco, but I mean, just my impression compared to the rest of the store, I imagine that their pharmacy price is pretty good.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised to hear that and see that she was excited to pay that much. That's like a month's worth of gas right there. That's crazy. So how would you guys feel about paying this cost for meds? I know Xavier, you touched on a little bit, like we make decent money, but I mean, like if you had to pay this every month, what would you be doing about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad that I'm currently healthy and lucky enough not to be on any prescription medications. I'm hoping to keep that up for a little bit longer for sure. But I mean, the cost adds up, even if it's 25, $30 a month, I am an investor, so I would love to be able to put that 25, $30 a month into my investment account and let that grow for me, where I'm making money off, passive income. But, uh, any costs I can reduce, I'm down
Bitcoin
for
money
it.
right there, right?
Yeah, I'm down for it. Hey, I'm trying to retire. I'm trying to not be working at 65. I would like to, at least retire around 60, maybe. So definitely trying to, stack as much as I can and save where I can and only buy useful stuff.
Got to save up, man. Got to save up, and your health's important. That's not something you want to be cutting costs, but
Right.
sucks. What about you, Sam? How would you adjust your expenses and your regular spending habits to account for spending this month that amount every month?
I mean, you would just have to prioritize, like whatever. If you put this as an important thing and this is what you want to do and need to do, it depends obviously on the med and how important it is to you. We could do it, especially for us. We could all make enough where we could reasonably easily do this, but it is expensive and it is a lot, and there are people that can't do that. Like Xavier's talking, their guy doing $8 a script, and how hard that is for them. They've already been prioritizing making these adjustments, and it's got to be tough for those people that are just trying to take care of their health, like Xavier's saying, and they just don't have the opportunity to do it. So it would be prioritizing. Depends on what it is. Stop buying the big bag of salt to get that blood pressure down on that blood pressure med, or whatever it may be to help counteract whatever that med is taken.
What's something in your life you would cut out today in order to pay for that?
Podcast equipment, maybe.
That's paid for.
Oh yeah. Podcast upgrades.
Oh, so you're not doing too bad then. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine spending that. I mean, that's a monthly cost to the YMCA for a family right there. So I mean,
Right.
so you could go exercise, get your blood pressure down, get in some shape. But that ain't gonna help you with that will probably help you with your depression. I don't know if it'll help you with your ADHD though, but
Right.
what can you do? I love that patients share their stories online because it kind of sheds light on our healthcare system and gives us perspectives that we might not see because we're on the other side of that. And sometimes when I'm a patient, I forget what the average patient is dealing with. But in order for patients to keep sharing things online, so we can keep getting insight, what advice would you give them in order to do that safely? There was obviously one big glaring thing that she did. How would you advocate for patients to continue doing this, but safely at the same time?
Yeah, so she definitely gave her name and date of birth. They got some scammers out there ready to use her information. They got a portion of it. She might use her birthday as a password. They got her full name. They can pretend like they're her. They can find her on social media. I mean, she didn't give too much, but she gave enough to where, there are people who are opportunists and they're out there, really trying to get your information and take all your money. So she will be complaining about that $120 a month if some scammers get a hold of her money, right? So definitely some things you have to be careful with, and especially if you're sharing on social media.
Yeah, that's either a Costco or a Sam's Club, right? So you call either one for your refills, and you got her Adderall. So yeah, not good thing that she did that. Not a good thing. Sam, what would be your advice to patients out there to keep sharing their information online?
I would say, yeah, that personal information that can be cut out is probably the biggest thing there. Obviously, there's that balance of they want to share, their med that they're on, about ADHD or whatever they might be taking, versus that being, personal. So obviously, she was comfortable enough to share about her medical conditions and taking meds to help with that. So that aspect is good, being comfortable and open. But as you're talking about, people can take advantage of that for them, not just for med side, but personally. So not just for medications, but anything. Protect yourself, your identity, potentially your name, definitely your date of birth, and be able to prescriptions. Just talking about meds versus holding your label up there and having all your info of that, or just showing a pill versus your prescription bottle, be things to just protect yourself or family members. Obviously it was just her, but you could see it being with family or someone else that's in videos, that something to protect. So just keep it to the information and less about yourself personally anyway versus your experience.
Yeah, definitely agree with all that. Be careful what you share online because once it's out there, it's locked in. It's locked in. You're not going to be able to scrub it, unfortunately. So just be mindful what you're sharing. Good on her for, I know you guys already mentioned this, being open to talk about your healthcare, problems, things you're dealing with. But not everybody's comfortable sharing that. So it's all about your tolerance, what you feel okay sharing about yourself online. But definitely don't share your date of birth. Maybe even I wouldn't even share my last. I mean, we share our last name. Obviously, we're in a freaking podcast, so
Big
we got to put
conscious.
ourselves out there. But as far as our healthcare information, I would not attach my last name to what's going on. But that's just me. That's just me with my tinfoil hat cap on. I don't know. Well, that's all I got. Boys, you got any final thoughts, any final words about the segment or the show in general?
I mean, it was definitely a fun podcast. Looking forward to doing the next one with you guys. It's always a great time. Yeah, see you guys next time.
Media stuff's always fun to see. So I like adding those little clips in there.
Yes, it's a good little fun twist here to the show.
Okie dokie. So, guys, that is a wrap for the Rated RX podcast, where we give you a little bit of laughter, a little bit of learning, and a whole lot of fun. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Shoot us a DM. Let us know your thoughts about the show. We would love to hear from you guys. Tag us online if you see a video that you think that we should talk about. And stay safe, stay curious, and keep your meds labeled. Peace out.
Bye.